Here we go. Here we go. Hello. This is going to be video 803. Or is it? Is it 803? Yeah, 803. 803. Been a hell of a week. This is the last, it's been the last full week of February 2022. And it was this week, if you're looking back on this from a time in the far future, this last week, after a couple weeks of Russia building up along Ukraine border, they moved in and tried to take it over, and they're in the process of doing just that right now. And so over the past day or two, you can't go anywhere without seeing a picture or it's on to TV and everything, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And that's kind of where this is going to start. It may not be where it ends, but today, as got up, I'm still not quite awake yet, but I was watching the news this morning, and I think it was NBC News. It wasn't the Today Show, but something like that, because it's Saturday. And, it was two people in a TV studio, New York behind them. They had a cup of coffee each, and they were sitting there, and the female anchor said something like, oh, that's so terrible. That's when I kind of came in on it. It's so terrible, your story. I just, my thoughts and prayers go out to you and your family. And they were interviewing a couple that was in a bomb shelter, and the male news anchor, kind of jumped in and said something to the effect of, Nikolai and Mary, if there's one thing you would like to tell the world, what would it be that you would like everyone to know? And the man on the other side was like, just, we are doing, I won't do his voice, we're doing our best, and da 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 da, and kind of what you would, very touching. We're doing the best we can. We're gonna stick this out, kind of thing. But when it was the woman's turn, she kind of started along the same lines, and she said, we appreciate the thoughts and the prayers, but what we really need right now is help. We need people to do things in their countries to help our country. We need help. We need action now. We need help in stopping Russia. Whatever you can do in your country, da 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 da. And then it cut back to the people of the studio, and they went on to the next story. And it kind of, it reverberated with me a little bit. And again, the contrast was so different. You had a man and a woman in this war zone. Their life had been demolished. They were, sitting there talking. I guess they were on, at a computer because you could see them, or a camera or a phone or something. And just the devastation that was around them. And I've got a cat here. The people who were interviewing them were in New York City. And, we're comfortable, safe, secure, and it just seemed like kind of a hokey thing to ask. But, it really, what the couple said was something that I guess it rung a bell with me about somewhat of the plight of the trans Americans, transgender adults and youth and teens in this country right now, that we, maybe I shouldn't say that, I appreciate when someone gives me a Facebook like or a heart. I mean, I love it. you know, because it's a sign of support. But when I'm posting an article, or this week I posted about, earlier in the week we had the people in Texas, the governor in Texas decided that, you know, trans parents of trans youth are going to be prosecuted by the Child Protective Services Office for child abuse because of gender affirming care. You know, people were like, you know, but which again is you get support in that way. But when you say now, what I really need you to do, first of all, thank you for your support. Thank you for your being an ally, da da da. But what I need you to do is to pick up the phone and call your state senator, your state legislature, call your governor, call your federal state senator, okay? Call the Congress people and tell them how you feel. You know, I live in Kentucky. I live in Indiana, okay? And I, you know, I'm supportive of trans rights in my state. You're my representative, and I would like you to vote for the Equality Act. You know, it's that extra step. Much like the people in Ukraine, they need action. You know, they need concrete. You know, again, the like, the heart, the I'm caring about you. It's wonderful. You know, thank you. But we need more than that, because these people, and you know, who, you know, if you live in Kentucky and you happen to speak to, you know, well, let's not go there. Let me tell you my, you know, again, my experience with Todd Young in Indiana. You'll hear my voice pick up a little bit because I'm going to get angry. Did not speak with Todd Young, but I wrote an email that got answered by Todd Young, and it may have just been one of his peons, okay, one of his office staff or whatever. But, you know, the assumption from Todd Young's office is, you know, trans people are this little minority that he can just write off, you know, make a guess that, yeah, maybe that's 8% of my constituents. And I'm going to gain, if I'm anti-trans, I'm going to gain 60% of my constituents and so much money from my lobby, you know, people that give him campaign finance, stuff like that. But I think if enough people started to do it, you know, what if out of 100 phone calls or 100 emails, you know, 60 or 70% were people that were trans supportive? You know, as much as we like to think that politicians are kind of brain dead, to a degree, okay, some more than others, they want to get reelected. You know, they want to stay in power. Usually, when you get into something like that, you want to stay in because it's easy. I think, I assume. I don't know firsthand, but you know what I mean. You know, what's the expression? I'm kissing babies and stealing their lollipops. You know, and so, like I said, I can't help but wonder. You know, they probably hire some firm, you know, some polling thing that's like, when something comes out, you know, well, give me the, you know, polling data, you know, how many people feel this way, and what are the, you know, they're going to weigh pros and cons to a certain thing, and eventually, knock on wood, knock on plastic, my desk is plastic, eventually they're going to be like, you know what, public polling is, the majority of the polls are going a certain way. If I want to stay in power, if I want to stay in office, I have to be, Now, granted, um, certainly some politicians, I mean, that's their stick. That's their shtick. Shtick. You can more or less assume that a Republican candidate at this moment in time, 2022, is going to pander towards conservative Christian views. That's their shtick, right? Okay. Um, that's what makes them different than someone, let's say, who's like an independent, or a conservative, a democratic socialist like Bernie Sanders, for example. You know, they're going to cater to their population, but, and I made mention of this before. I'm sorry for repeating myself, but my daughter, her school, um, in Indiana, high school. I mean, the kids there, they're non-binary, they're gender fluid, they have different values, and they're going to on the cusp of coming out to vote in the next election or the next two elections. And so again, at some point, I'm not going to say a Republican is going to pick up the LGBT banner, okay, but as that minority that they tapped into and locked on, that I represent traditional family value. I mean, again, if they want to stay in power, they're going to have to change their tune a little bit. We can hope. Um, and again, it might be the kind of thing that they hold on to it to their dying days. Look at Mitch McConnell. Okay. He knows exactly what he needs to be and what he needs to say to stay in power, and he's not going to change his tune just yet. But then again, at the same time, again, they're some of them, like I said, are pretty savvy, okay, and if you look at over the course of the year, how much Mitch McConnell initially was so pro-Trump, and he's got his finger, like I said, he's a savvy person, okay, as much as I hate his guts, I don't like him. He's a savvy politician, and he's distanced himself from Trump in the last 6 months. And a lot of that, I think, is because he knows something. Someone from the January 6th Commission has probably tipped him off a little bit that they got some dirt on Trump, and you don't want to go down with Trump. But um, anyway, let's not focus so much on politics. It's just get back to the idea of doing something. And I know for myself, when I was in college at University of Florida, I was involved in our my parish a lot, Catholic church, and I was on different not councils, volunteered on different things. One of the things I did was a soup kitchen every week, for about a year. Every weekend I was helping out at the soup kitchen, or days that we had off that I could make it during the week. I'd go cook in the kitchen, I'd do dishes and whatnot. It was a way of actually doing something as opposed to, just clicking a like, or, now granted, that was before Facebook, but you know what I mean. And it's not an accusatory finger. I'm not trying to make you feel bad or someone else feel bad. And I definitely know we get busy, we do things. Like I said, I'm not necessarily trying to I'm just trying to make a statement that, again, it's nice, allies are wonderful, but in this instance, we need numbers to start calling and saying, I disagree with this. Kind of like in Texas, there's been a lot of pushback. Okay, from the governor and his basically putting bounties on trans parents that are supportive of their children. And it was people who started to call, and people, as a politician, I think he kind of misjudged his supporters, because there was enough people that said, no, this is wrong, and we're not going to support this in Texas now. You remember when, I think it was North Carolina or South Carolina, I think it was North Carolina, there was something with the NCAA, and they had the anti-trans, and the College Athletic Association was like, well, we're not going to hold the NCAA tournament, NAA, whatever. We're not going to have the sporting tournament in your state because of your anti-trans. And suddenly it was, countless thousands, if not $1 million or $2, the state was going to lose. And people were like, whoa, what are you doing? And so again, I think getting it out there and definitely there's it's nice to get, like I said, it's nice to get a thumbs up. It's nice to get support in that way. But in this case, we need the phone call. We need the letter, and of course, the, politician might, here, Senator Scratch and Sniff, here's another one, well, when they have, a stack of letters this thick, we can hope, that changes a little bit. We'll wait and see. And, moving on a little bit, there was an NPR thing. Somehow Facebook has decided I'm going to get NPR updates, which I don't mind. I like NPR. Every night I watch the PBS NewsHour. That's where I get my news. Because it's free over the internet. But I think it's pretty fair and balanced between things. And it's not as sensational as like the news, my local news. But anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, it sucks getting old. But everybody's doing it. We're talking about the news. Man, it's gone. I honestly can't remember. Anyway, okay, hang on. It's coming. Oh, okay. It's kind of coming up. Something to do with, okay, what we were doing in Europe. That was it. I think. I don't know, I might be going in a different direction now. This is, the brain power is, the vacuum tubes are starting to work again. A little bit. Maybe someone fired like an EMP or something. But, this happened not that long ago, but, talked a little bit about Ukraine, getting back to Ukraine here. And, I had posted something on Facebook. Boy, this is not going to make any sense, is it, when I watch this back? The article was about, the fighting and the suffering of the people. And I said something like, well, I understand that Russia has nuclear weapons, and so the United States and NATO are not going to intervene in, what's going on in Ukraine. They're only going to be concerned with NATO. I said, but, as a parent, if your child or the child that you don't even know, out across the street or in the next building or, the next apartment is in a fist fight with a bully, or more importantly, I guess, the bully who, the 6 foot tall bully is beating the crap out of the 4-foot tall kid next door, as a parent, you go outside and you stop it, you know. And immediately there was, number one, people making fun of my name, because I guess that's funny. Karen. Ha 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 ha. Oh, really, Karen? But, they were like immediately, well, you just don't understand. You have an older mindset because we live in a post, I forget the word, a nuclear blah, 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 blah. And, it kind of was like, I was like, didn't you read, I understand nuclear, but at the same time, and this is totally my opinion, okay, but, again, back to that little scenario, I would intervene, and I wouldn't care if the bully had an aluminum baseball bat. I wouldn't care if if the bully's father was the chief of police. I wouldn't care, And again, I understand the fear of nuclear weapons, but I almost just wonder if, that was kind of always the thing about, I guess, mutually assured destruction. The United States has to have so many missiles and Russia has to have so many missiles. It's almost like someone had said something, I think, I don't remember where I heard it. It wasn't in Dr. Strangelove. Maybe it was in Dr. Strangelove. But it was something like a weapon that is never used can become a useless weapon. Maybe it was Colin Powell who said it. I don't remember. I'll have to look it up. But, if you have, basically mutually assured destruction, I just wonder if, and I realize Ukraine has to stand on its own 2 feet. Okay. If NATO sent tanks or something in there, the Russian army may or may not stop, but, the moment those NATO people leave, here comes Russia again, It's one of those things I think Putin has to get a bloody nose politically, which I think will happen. But to me, I don't know, there's something about me, I just can't, I just don't think it's right to just sit there and watch, the nation is, the Ukraine is saying to anybody, the president of Ukraine was like, hey, anybody who wants to come fight, we will gladly take you. And there's just something about me that's like, here you have all these people in the United States, supposedly, First Amendment, or is it Second Amendment? I think Second Amendment's guns. First Amendment's freedom of speech. And the separation of church and state that just everyone just forgets about. Second Amendment, bunch of Southerners, shit, put them on planes and drop them in Ukraine, the stereotypical good old boys. Here I am making stereotypical judgments about Southerners, right? And here I just talked about people making fun of my name. But, there are people there that a week ago were practicing with plywood prop guns, okay, learning how to shoot and how to do basic, small unit tactics. They're willing to die for their country. And I don't know, just something seems like, I don't know. I don't know if you could get away with it or not, but just it reminds me of the Flying Tigers, okay? I don't think it was World War II. I think it was something else. But the Air Force basically let airmen fly for the Chinese Air Force, okay? It may have been Korea. I'm sorry, my brain is not as good as it once was, but um, we let our servicemen fly. Remember, that's where you see the airplanes with the tiger grin on the front, the flying tigers. I think it was in China, because on the back of the jackets they had the blood shit, where it was an order from the emperor that the Chinese were to help out a pilot that maybe had been downed. Give them whatever they needed to get back to the capital. And so, I don't know. But part of me wishes there were a couple of American, it's almost like a shield. Which again, you take away the shield and the bully's just going to go back in there. But, can you imagine a bullet or something hits an American in Ukraine right now, and then and then what? And again, you're like, well, but they've got nuclear weapons. Well, I understand that, but I don't know. I just kind of think it's like, we could say, if you want to renounce your citizenship and go fight for Ukraine, and then I don't know. There's just a little bit of. Again, I understand you got to look at big losses and minor losses. What's the trade-offs? Blah, 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 blah. But, that's like, if they're not going to stop him, we're not going to stop him, United States. Okay, Americans. We're not going to stop him from his people from going into the country, shooting and killing civilians. Well, what's to stop him from raping women? And selling kids into the sex trafficking trade, and well, we can't do anything against him because he's got nuclear weapons. Isn't that like the old mad scientist? You can't do anything against Dr. Evil because isn't that where James Bond comes in? In a jetpack and look out, Blofeld. Again, I realize that's fiction, but it just seems like at some point, and I realize in this instance, they're saying that sanctions and basically starving out the country. They're hoping that Russia will change its tune, which we can hope for. But like I said, I guess again, as if I saw the two kids fighting in the hallway, I would intervene. And the consequences be damned. Go ahead, come at me with your nuclear weapon. You know what I mean? It's it's supposed to be like an argument ender, but at the same time, it's like, launch it, and then we'll see what happens. Again, that idea of mutually assured destruction. Do you really think that's what they're going to do? Or is it just the fear of it? What good is a destroyed world? That was the whole thing about the movie, I guess, Interstellar. Whoever figured out how to grow the crops were basically going to die of suffocation. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But it just seems like a shitty thing to do. Kind of like the two anchors this morning, as they were drinking their coffee, and probably 10 feet away from them, they had a craft table set up with breakfast and hot food and people pandering to them, their assistants, and them trying to say, oh, my heart, my thoughts and my prayers go out to you. I'd be like, fuck you, pick up a fucking gun and come over here, you know? So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I don't have a good solution. I don't. There's just part of me just feels like, again, you know, there's a saying, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And, you know, I feel more that way than, you know, well, I would do something, but they're going to do something, you know, and so therefore we do nothing. It just doesn't seem right to me. But again, there's much smarter people than me, and then one more thing, and then I'll shut up on this. There was a story, video that I watched about soldiers fight. You know that it is actually very, very hard for one human being to kill another human being. Okay, psychotics and serial killers aside. Generally speaking, if you have one military versus another, they more than likely will miss than hit. It's very hard to get someone to kill someone else. And it's something that the British military, I think, did a study on it. And yeah, units will actually point their guns above the heads of the enemy unit so they won't kill anybody because they don't want to live with that guilt. And there were, when they excavated Gettysburg, they recovered several rifles that actually had multiple balls rammed into the barrel of the gun. Okay, this was the tube, the gun. The soldiers were basically, for their officers, loading their gun, dry firing it, loading their musket, okay, dry firing it, and there'd be multiple balls in the gun barrel because they could not kill, they couldn't shoot the other person, which is wonderful for our humanity. But you know, it's just a threat. You know, food for thought. So again, you know, and there's stories on Facebook. The story about the Ukrainians that were on the island and the Russian Navy came over and were like, you know, surrender, haha. And the people on the island were like, fuck you, you know. And they killed them. So, okay, so again, you know, but I don't know, like I said, just something about it. And maybe it is an old, outdated thinking. Maybe it is a romantic, you know, this notion of, I'm going to die fighting, you know, I'm going to die defending what I believe in. But I don't know, there's just something in my nature that I want to help the underdog. I want to do that. Now, there are websites, I'll put a link in the comments, how you can actually help the Ukrainian army and whatnot, but I don't know. I don't know what we could do. Could we drop weapons? I mean, we've given weapons to them, but again, I don't know. I don't know. Seems like in this age, we can do better than just sit and wait. And I think about, you know, kind of all the people and all the suffering that's happening right now over there. And, you know, the idea is that, you know, let's say Putin takes over the country and it's a wasteland, you know, not going to have the support of the people. You know, once you take over a region, what do you do with it? You know, look at Crimea. You know, someone said he wants farmland. I'm like, sure. But anyway, I've droned on a lot, and I apologize. And I felt the need to say something, and I could be wrong, but seems like we can do more. And I guess that kind of is where the other point comes in with our plight and getting the Equality Act passed. You know, I think the support is out there, but getting people to go that extra step, picking up the phone, writing a letter, talking to someone, you know, and saying, hello, I'd like to talk to Senator Gasbag. Well, the senator's not available right now. Well, when is he available? I'll wait. You know, being that constituent that is not satisfied. Again, back to the Bible, you know, the woman who knocks on the judge's door. Eventually, the judge is like, I've got to, just to get rid of the woman, I'm going to hear her, you know. And it could all be, again, you know, Senator Gasbag could just be blowing air, but, you know, how many, usually the squeaky wheel is the one that gets the oil, right? So if you had multiple people every day, I don't know. Maybe it's an old, like what the guy told me, you have a old mentality. You know, well, I stand up for what I believe in. You know, but anyway, we just have to wait and see, I guess. Yeah. Just move the borders, right? Yeah. Well, and the goofy thing again about Ukraine is 2 years ago they applied to be part of NATO, you know? So this whole thing is just so weird, you know? You would think that imperialism in this day and age doesn't make any sense, you know? You know, here you have, and again, you're talking with someone who's, you know, had his opponents poisoned and killed, you know. You're not necessarily dealing with a nice politician. You're dealing with kind of a crazy person. But anyway, I digress. So I will shut up and wish you the best of luck in your pursuit of becoming your authentic self as you define it. And I will wish you the best of luck in making the best of a bad situation. And we'll go from there. So, till next time. Bye-bye.